a few things on. Let's pick it up from, so Michael, you remember all your forms? So let's pick it up from the fourth form. Fourth form? That's a good place to start, right? Okay. Anybody else joining in fourth form? Yeah. All right, ready? Fourth form, eyes staring straight ahead. I'll count you through it slowly so we have it. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Open the stance. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Sink. Turn. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Close. 1, 2. No, not yet. Trap your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Short punch. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Okay, other side. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn. 1, 2, and next. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, to the corner. 1, let's pause, get your position, get into your stance. Go on, Michael, get deep. This one's got to be your bridge, your structure there, and then scoop. 1, all the way to the side. 2, get into the stance. 3, back to center. 1, 2, 3. Okay, next. 1, 2, 3. Back down, lift up, back up, cross over. Okay, so your hands here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then your hair close. Okay, wrist block, sink, fold, and step. 1, 2, double block, stomp, thrust, poke up to the throat. Let's get in a good stance. Go on, Michael. Offset horse a little bit over here, yeah. Okay, ready, turn. Okay, shoulder level, open. Going in this direction, yeah. Sliding step, punch. 2 punches, turn. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, scoop, uppercut, remove, punch, punch, turn, scoop, uppercut, remove, punch, punch. 1, 2, sliding step, punch, step up, parallel stance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Turn, back fist, corner, Cheurng, sliding step, punch, reach behind, elbow, dropping palm, back fist, okay, cutting hand, thrust, okay, 1, jump, corner, back fist left, sliding step to the corner, palm, okay. Now we're going to straighten out that front foot to toe out. So we're in this corner, straighten it out like this, and then step through to get into a good offset, and then double block. Double back fist. Sit, turn. 1, 2, 3, push. 1, 2, 3, push, stomp, flip. Push. Okay, sit back, go into a cat stance, turn to the back corner, step up, strike. Now we're going to adjust the back foot, go to high block, high. So we're like this in the drunken fist. Then we adjust horse stance. Drop this elbow, turn, scoop, 3 times. 1, 2, 3, turn, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sliding step. Punch, turn, turn. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, good. Not too bad. Deep breathing. Any questions? So we're going to go through that one more time without the count. We try to stay together. Just work one movement at a time. Remember, one horse, one leaning, one horse. There's always that same relationship. And as you build, when you say, even if it's a second form, say, once you go like this, 1, you're on horse, you're uppercut. 1, low, uppercut. So you're transitioning always from the bottom, get a good base, then work through your stances. Because, by working it that way, your body begins to build the interim transition, and then you always get comfortable. Then it becomes second nature. You go into your stance, you set it up, and bang, set it up. So that's just, it's a format, but, we do it long enough, it just becomes continuous. It becomes second nature. All right, ready? I stare and shade. Remember we did the salute. Important thing is you have your structure here, but then you turn. Then you step, and then you finish. 1, 2. You sink, you open, you lift, and you cross. And you pull it back, right? Then you continue. Step. Okay, so try to work together like that. Okay, ready? So from the beginning. Ready, go. Don't rush, not too, one movement at a time. Friday? Are you going to come Friday night? Okay. Come at 6. You can stay through conditioning. It's 2.5 hours if you stay the whole time.
So, I didn't do some of these yet. I'll do these later. But so this guy looks like he wants to do a block 13, but he wants to pay it monthly.
No, he didn't know because we had that first sheet, so he paid that one. Like me, I remember when you took it off when we had the meeting. So he's going to bring the balance. That's Steve. He just came back from. Yeah, everything was new, so they were a little confused. But okay, good. Deep breathing. Mic on. So actually I spent a lot of time in the last class working with newer people, telling them and showing them how important fundamentals are. So fundamentals are things that we think are very basic, but fundamentals are really important to even evolve. So, simple things that we didn't pay attention to in the beginning was because we wanted to just kind of pass through that and we felt we know it. But one of the things in the traditional arts is that what we think we know, we really don't know. You know, it's that old saying, knowing is not knowing. So what don't we know? We don't know really what structure is. We don't know where certain alignments are, because the reference points that we use are kind of foreign to people that don't do this. And if you're doing this kind of training without actually a reference, then you miss the whole point, actually. So a lot of the reference points that we use is using our body. Your body's your best reference, because you can't reference yourself to your movements to somebody else simply because it's not going to help you in your training. Usually practice is kind of a self-cultivation, so you work within the realm of your universe, your realm of whatever you're working on. So eye level, shoulder width, and all that really is important. Just going down to basics, let's go into horse stance. And we throw a punch. Boom. That goes right to the middle. And we turn. Boom. Okay, so when we practice this punch, a lot of times we know how to throw a punch, but we're trying to get the waist to twist a little bit and the waist to twist a little bit. That sort of streamlines that triangle, and it gets you targeting towards your center line. And in our system, we talk a lot about center line because that's the direction of your target, and that's where you focus on, because the nose is the guideline. Wherever your nose faces, that's where your target's going to be. You could think that it's over there and then you go there, but that's kind of blind faith. You kind of think it's there. That could happen once you've dialed everything in. You don't have to look. But in the beginning, the hand-eye coordination is very important, so you have to focus on that. We call it the 5 coordinations: hand, eye, body, waist, and stance. So while the hands and the eyes are connecting, because it's a visual thing, you're training yourself to focus on this imaginary point. So when we punch, it goes there. When we set up our low block, it's right here. The wrist is about where your center line is, okay? And the other side is the same. So that's what we target as a position. That sets you up for that perfect position. Then when we do 2 of them, you have an alignment. Your wrists actually line up with your shoulder. That gives you your hoop position. If we turn our hands up and lift it up the shoulder, here, position is here. We turn our palms up, the wrist is still lined up with the shoulder. So really it's a straight line. It's parallel because the arms are going out essentially within that shoulder width position. So it's a 2-handed movement. It's generally in front of the shoulders. That's an important concept. Just like when we do double bridges, we'll go to the sides. When we do a middle block, our hand should be cupped like this, form like a V, and you do this. Right? So that gives your hand a little bit of structure, because we can't just kind of set that up because there's not enough sort of tension in the forearm to create this structure. So that creates a little bit. Now that's no different from turning like this and then throwing a punch, because when we do that and form a fist, now you feel there's some integrity there. When you're here, you still have to have a sense of integrity. Okay. Now if I go like this, I'm in a 45 degree, and I go like this, I'm at a 45 degree. That's a cross hand position. It's also your oblique, right? In an oblique position, you go to a high block, because what people sometimes misconceive is that a high block is just lifting from here. So if your shoulders are very tight, it's not going to release, and it's going to be slow, and it's going to hurt your shoulder. You're going to get an injury from moving like that. So to avoid that, really, as you pass through center and then realign that center line position, it should be here. And it's not up there, it's in front of the forehead. And it's the same position as when we do our side bend. Because while we see it as a stretch here, we're building a position on both sides, right? Because it's on your center line and because it's singular, it has to be lined up there. Now, this is a stretch, but actually when we turn and we turn, the bending and that has to become a unit. So that's what you know. Even though they look like calisthenics when we do the exercises, it's, in one sense it is, because it's just kind of a thing that everybody does. But our intent is different and our purpose and goals are different. So we have to bring that idea into that. So that's the conscious intent that we talk about in martial arts. So regardless of what it is, Tai Chi, Kung Fu, Yet Himon, it's all the same. You always have to be dealing with position, voids, functionality. So we build all of that stuff into the fundamentals that we're starting in the beginning. So what we do is really, as though it seems simple, it's the building blocks to more complex positioning and movement, because you have to have these things dialed into your body before you can actually get there, whether it's quickly or in a more complex action. So it's a position like this, right? That's your vertical elbow. It's your square. If you go like this, it's your triangle. And this is your hoop. It's a round. So it's triangles, squares, and circles. You know, we learned that when we were, in infants, triangles, squares, and circles. Now we take it to a whole different level, right? Now we have to look at our triangles, squares, and circles as structures for our, our postures. So when we pass through these, that's what we have to really get as the muscle memory and position. Then when you go like this, you're going to have your positions very precise. That's one of the things, we take pride in our style, our systems from my teachers, is that accuracy of position. That's one of the comments that a lot of people make about our performances, that it looks so consistent, so accurate. It's because of this that makes it happen. It doesn't happen. It's a concept. It doesn't happen in the body overnight. It takes time. It takes, so you have to build that into your system. So when we're here, going like this and here, that's the same movement as we have here. So if you have these basic transitions right in the beginning, then when you learn the double block, or you learn full hawk, or you learn any of these forms, it just falls into that category of movement. And you're here. Because the shoulders relax, it allows you to form that position with a crispness, and the joints will know. Yeah. So that's what we're trying to understand in the basics. So when we do fundamentals, like if you're leading a class, you want to make sure everyone does it correctly. Even a punch like this, you have to get the action right. It's not. You have to get them to understand that as a basic and a beginner. So, all right. So now when we're in the fourth form and we curl our hands, we have to set up our low block like this, and then this hand comes from here, and it goes right to the chin or toward the chin. So you look at the stance, it goes like that. Now from here you have to sink your elbow and turn into that corner and push. Okay, so this palm is in your center. It's in your center line. So your knee, the palm, and the rear foot. Now if you're looking at the alignment, this palm goes through the leg and is supported in the back. Okay, so those are the things that we try to understand as an alignment of the body. So stay there. Okay, so that's a tiger claw. This is this movement. So they're a little bit different. Yeah. So these are the two corner movements, and they're like this. This is called pu pai. So it's actually a different name for this posture. And the hand comes like this. Later on in the form, you have another set. It's pu pai su also. That's down here. So these movements is just low and middle. So the consistency of our movements is important because on the functional side, your body has to know when it goes like this and it goes like this, goes like this, and it goes like this. There's no second guessing where it goes. It just shoots out because it's going to a visual imaginary target that you have trained. So once you block and it goes there, that's when you don't really have to look because your body knows that that's where it's going. All it has to do is see an opening. If you detect an opening, it goes for that spot, but you don't have any time to look for that. That's why in the practice, you actually really have to get everything. When you throw a punch, it's there. You don't have to really, sort of calibrate because you already went through that process. So that's what forms do. It's just a vehicle to develop your movement and house all those postures. How can you memorize all those postures without having some format to do that? So learning more forms only teaches you more variations of the same movements to get there and get out of there and get there and get out of there. And that's part of being more diverse. Because all we did was throw 1,000 punches, you would know how to throw a pretty good punch. So back in the old days, they had a very famous boxer. All he knew was a straight punch, but he was very effective with that straight punch because he knew every position required to hit with that single punch. So was the footwork and his maneuverability. All he had to do is use that one punch. So that's how simple things can get, but it takes a lot of skill. So that skill doesn't come from just knowing the punch. It comes from years and years of analyzing the effectiveness of that punch. So we have lots of movements, so you draw off of those. But then they fall into a category. When I'm here, 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 here. So this is really hooking and turning. So in the form, you're not going to strike that guy and strike that guy and strike that person. What you're doing is learning how to turn. Because once you hook and you strike and you hook, you're always going to be heading in the direction of your opponent, unless you're doing multiple attacks. But this is a training tool to get your body to do this. So that when you hook, you're going to do this, or hook and do this. So that's your action. If I go like this, it goes here. This one goes here. So you're just moving from one point to another. That's essentially all you're doing. Because once your hand is out there, what are you going to do next? It depends on where something comes through. So if it's here, it's there. If it's here, it's there. So your body does this adapting. So when you do forms, you have to adapt your position with some form of, accuracy and action. So while I sink like this, your body knows how to do that. So my hand is here, I know how to do that. My hand is here, I can do that. So your body responds, but it's always going to be there. So that becomes reflex, conditioned reflex, or conditioned action is really, over time, becomes that reflex. And reflex action is a no-brainer. You don't really have to go through that. But learning is a brainer. You have to actually be conscious of it and go through that, taking enough information so your body can figure it out. So this movement, when we curl, sink, and turn. So while we sink and turn, there's two bridges there. There's two movements there, right? The first movement is this. If she punches, is this. The second movement is this. And then that would go there, right? If I used it, it would be actually like this. The first movement is here, and then there. You see? So it's a follow-up. Nothing works by itself. So the timing between this, that setup, becomes that. And that's really, the explosiveness of the movement comes from the sudden motion. But that's how you recruit the energy to do that. But it's a split second, yeah. Yeah.
So I felt
It's no, actually it's a function of, it's not so much that I pulled you in, It's because,
I see.
you see,
I do see. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because it's a change of direction.
It's,
And then when I did that,
That's amazing.
it's
Okay.
it's a multi-dimensional change. So when I did that and that happened, it was really because of action in the body. So yeah, so that is when you bring in a variable. That's the external variable that you can't really develop, without contact. You can develop the accuracy of your position, but then that movement, once it connects, becomes a response. But it's partially because there's a sensitivity attached to the motion, and there's a response. But the timing between the two is that split second of movement. So by doing the movements over and over again, it's really letting your body discover. This is full hawk. It's really wiring you up to do the movements correctly. Right and left, right and left. So a lot of times we don't pay attention to that. So with Michael, you got to work your legs, because where did the power come? It comes from the legs. Unless you sink into your stance, your legs don't get used to it, and it kind of wants to just be there, but you don't really know how important that is. So the legs are really important. That's your base, and your base is the root. So you got that, Ari. 2, 1, 2. Yeah. So what I just saw there was, while we're like this, and then like this, and then do that, this is 1, that's 2, that's 3. But this and this are separate, broken. This and this become a unit, because unit, it's really building integration. The harmony of the movement comes from when your body is working together. The 6 harmonies, there's a style called the 6 harmonies, but that's really the tying in your elbows and your knees, right? Your shoulders and your hips, your hands and your feet. That's called luk hap, 6 harmonies. But we talk about them being 6, 2 and 2 times 2 is 12. It's really our 12 joints that has to be integrated. So, and then we, not to mention the torso. We're just talking about the appendages. So when we're here, 1, 2, 3, 4, you have to see the plane of movement. This is cover, hook, turn, palm, right? Cover, turn. So the hand movement is really your arm. It has to tie together. So your shoulders and your hips have to work together. Yeah, and your feet and your palms have to work together. So if you can get that strategy, go. Okay, good. Yeah. And then the shape and configuration of the hand makes a difference. It's how it looks. Yeah. So everything that we do when it comes to forms, sequential first, refinement next. But refinement comes in different stages, because we have the 5 coordinates: hand, eye, body, waist, and stance. Right? The hand and eye. The body is your body form. The waist is your torso. And then your stance is your lower half. Your stance is the hardest to develop, because the legs are not as astute and willing to learn. So that's the hardest part to develop, is the ma bu. So in the stance, we have a horse, we have a leaning, we have a cat stance, we have a cross stance, we have a single leg. Those are all stances. Those are your target positions. But the thing is, your transition, how do you get into them? What's the transition to interim positions? Is just like 1, 2, 3. Your legs do a 1, 2, 3 as well. So if you have synchronization of upper and lower, the phases of the movement have to time. And that's something that varies among individuals because of the perception and the anatomy of the body, depending on if you're flexible, if you're not flexible, if this side is working. So you got to really go through a process to sort all of that out. And that's a process that's kind of an individual thing. The more you put into it, the more you would be able to get out of it, and get out of that is really discovering. So that's really, that's a process that we all go through. So let's continue. Let's go to Gung Kun. Oh, you want to review that again? No? Okay, so let's go to Gung Kun, which is, the pillar form, and actually Peter just started the Fook Fu, so we can do some of that sequence, all right? So let's go right from the beginning. I won't talk so much. Okay, ready, go. Let's try to stay together. This is more dynamic. Get your triangles, hoops, and squares together. Eyes staring straight ahead, and eyes using peripheral vision to follow the hands. Turn, right? Okay, no, we just finished the first half, yeah. Okay, deep breathing. So a lot of things we talk about is just pointers, but sometimes we remember the pointers here, but the body doesn't remember it because the body hasn't gone through enough of the sort of the analysis, because the body really can't do it. The mind has to do it. So the body has habits, and those habits stay with you until they kind of go away from either sort of deprogramming it and then reprogram it, or it just picks it up over time through nutrition. So it does take some work. So something like this, and coming to here, sink the elbow, relax the shoulder, and turn. So we have to know that it does that. And then the back fist. Then the cutting hand. When we cut, the back of the hand becomes the pulling, that's the hook. And then you're here, and you thrust, or you open, and you push. So these are sinking the elbow, relaxing the shoulder, elbow down to do the push, elbows out to do the upper movements. Those are all kind of fundamentals that I'm talking about. So you got to get your body to kind of recognize that, and then don't have to speed it up. Take your time learning the sequence. People sometimes are kind of impatient, get through the sequence, and then try to rush through it because people are doing it fast, but you miss a lot. So we try to, when you practice on your own, just work a small section, and then work off of the little things that we talked about, whether it's this, or just cutting, finding a cross hand, cutting hand, take a step, and then finish the movement. And over time, your body will start to reproduce it. That's really what has to happen. Reproduce it consistently, and then you can move on to the next thing. But there's a lot of movements, the high block and this. This is, these fundamentals are important. The trapping hand, the back fist, the dropping palm, those are pretty consistently happening through a lot of forms, not to mention the elbows. So the elbow, that pow, should be parallel. So it's a hook and it goes up with the movement. This goes up with the movement. 1, 2 goes up with the movement. The bick is vertical. The vertical, if it's tied to your back, I'm down here, I'm a little bit hunched, rounded, because you have to create the integrity of that position. And then we lift. So if I'm here hollowed, my hand is, I just have to straighten my back. Make this part of this unit, and then it'll be connected. So a bick is this. It's not more arm, trying to do that. It's just from here, next to the side of your body, and you just go like that. That's a bick. Doesn't have to go beyond that point, because that's a short inside movement. So bick has to be here. Once you go like that, you're starting to reach. You lose structural integrity. So that's your framework. Your skeleton is your framework. Right? So your framework is what you're dealing with. It's like a house. Without the framework, you have nothing to put the outside on, the sheeting. This is our framework. So that's where your technique has to come from. So we have this and then we have this. Why? Because they're different. We have this and we have this. Those are different. So we have to define the direction of those movements. This is over there. This is around. This is lifting. This is continually lifting till it gets to there. It doesn't go beyond that, because once you go beyond that, it starts to reach. And your shoulder really doesn't like to go beyond that as a natural position. But when we go like this, then we pull down, then push. When it gets to this position, that's the only way you can go. And the reason for that is because once you intercept and it comes down, the idea is to do this, and then you drop and pull, and then you push. That's the technique in Gung Ji Kun. Up, down, and push. We break it down to control the direction of those movements so that the body starts to recognize the little techniques between. There's a lot of different body mechanics happening there. They're different directions. It's different lifting. The torso is part of that. So when it goes hand, eye, and body, the body is the part that's not very astute, because the body doesn't know. You still have to bring that idea in. So all of this is really fundamental in learning and in teaching and in understanding, because you have to think along these lines in order to have a deeper understanding. So body mechanics is something that most martial arts use as a strategy for effectiveness, because of the leverage, because of the body mechanics, because of the physical science involved. Body mechanics is really, what a structural engineer does. Really, he designs things to work effectively and most efficiently with the least amount of material. The less material you use, the less it costs. So you want to build something that's efficient, effective. So when they make cars, they get a flat piece of sheet metal and they kind of bend it all in these little things. They do that not only for design, but it makes a thin piece of metal a lot stronger. It makes the car lighter, and at the same time, it has, effectiveness. So our body's the same thing. If you're creating the shapes and the positions, then it's going to be effective without using a whole lot of strength. So you're using less of your energy, you're using less of your reserves, whatever it is. So that's, maybe it's not important to young people, but for older people, it's pretty important that on a functional side, you want to use less energy to get more things done. And then at the same time, you can go to bed, wake up the next morning, and you're not going to feel it the same way. So we can't do 1,000 kicks and 500 kicks and feel great the next morning, except for Lawrence. Lawrence does that every day. So anyways, so let's go to Fook Fu, all right? So the basic movements in Fook Fu, right? We have the short punch, the sliding step, the short punch. Look at the short punch, 1, 2, 3. Okay. That single line is the 3 points of alignment, right? So that's what we shoot for. That's the same punch in the fourth form, by the way. So there's no difference. You learn the fourth form, you should know this punch. It's a short punch. Then we go like this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. There's your 2 butterflies. 1, 2, 3, and push. Now once we push, we're going to step through center. Open up the stance, create the middle block, and punch. Step through center, create the horse stance, middle block, sliding step, and punch. Okay. Now when this goes here, this leg goes there. So you turn to the horse, create the horse, and sink. There's your back fist. And simultaneously, this hand comes to the waist. And then you punch. Then you turn. Same thing happens on this side. 1, there's a sliding step. Should have been a sliding step there. Punch. Then go to center again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's going through it basically because a lot of times we shortcut the movement. We don't control our stepping because we always have to control our center of mass. It's in Kung Fu, it's in Tai Chi. Otherwise you're going to be awkward and you're going to be off balance and you're going to be sloppy. So when we're here, you have to take a step, horse to leaning. Right? If we're in this position, we have to pivot. There's that position. You take your step. And then this hand's coming back as this hand starts to go forward. So that connection is what we mean by integration. So we struggle with that all the time because we're trying to do that. So at some point it starts to feel natural. It just happens over and over again. So that's really what it is to advance, or advance your skill level. So let's try that from the beginning. Ready? Eyes staring straight ahead. Hup, hup, hup. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Elbow, same elbow that we've learned in the second form. And the fourth one has a 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's good. That's new. 1, 2. Okay, run through it. Keep going. Follow the person in front. Yeah, you can do it again. Yeah. Oh, you want to watch it? Okay, keep going. Stay together. Jump. Water punch. High block, palm strike. High block, palm strike. And you just throw one more punch and that's good. Elbow, straight down, and back fist. And you step back. We'll go to 45. So here, then you step back. 1, 2, 3. And these are just palms, not the. So still going back to basics, because I see some things that haven't become habit. So if you're in the water punch and you high block like this and you palm strike, you high block, sliding step, and palm strike, the palm, your right and left always has to work together. You can't just do one side of movement. So you say, well, you know, I never heard that, you know, because going through the form, I don't get to this point and then maybe I missed that class. You may have missed that class, but you didn't miss this class. That's the same movement, right? So I'm just, you know, just bringing that up so that if you learned it there, you know it here. And then when I point it out, you should be able to kind of assimilate that and just kind of bring it into your movement. But, you know, so if it's missed at that point, if you get it here, go back into your second form and you'll have it. So that's what cross-training is. That's what learning multiple forms will do by letting you identify that motion and then be able to do it. You know, Kung Fu has a lot more postures than Tai Chi. Tai Chi has 37 postures, and you struggle with that for a lifetime. Can you imagine what you have to do with the movements in Kung Fu? But Kung Fu is a little more forgiving, as some teachers are. They let you get away with sloppy movement and disconnected motions. So I could be a lot harder than I am and point out, like the old teacher, he used to say, there's a term here, Gong Kiet, the Gaga. Oh. You've heard that term, right? So no matter what, I don't know how to translate it, no matter what he says, it's not happening, you know, something like that. Gong Kiet, the Gaga, how do you translate? Gaga is like fake. It's not real. It's not happening. I could tell you all till my face is blue, it's not happening. Okay, then he walks away, nodding his head. That's an old teacher. But, you know, that's how it is. It's kind of funny when I think back about it, but you can't get away with teaching like that here. No one would come to class. But that's what it is. I point these things out so that it just kind of triggers a little, you know, so you understand. So when you're here, and we're here, you should have a sliding step before that, and then this, and then kick. So when we're here, that should be there, and this is the high block. So we come to here, slide, and that should be like that. You get used to doing that because as soon as you catch or you block, you have to pull. That side of pulling is called disruption. You can't strike by thinking you're going to hit the target. Nothing better than when you have your hand here and know that you have something to, it's a rebounding and you have something to work with. If I go like this, I still connect. You see, so you always connect. If I go like this, it was still connecting. But it was different because I went like this, and it came this way, because I throw it this way, then this would go here. So that's actually like that. Right. So when the hands move, they have to work together as a unit. One drives the other, and they follow each other. So when we do this, when we do this, when we do this, when we do this, we're actually building the same mechanism to understand that when we catch, when we do this, it becomes a natural motion. So that's what we get out of this, because we're creatures of habit. All we can do is do it over and over again, and then the body will learn it. If you don't do it over and over again, it saw it, but it didn't really absorb it and then become part of you. So you do have to see it, absorb it, digest it, and it becomes part of you. like your food. You eat it, you swallow it, and then if it's good, it stays. If it's not good, So we're just like that. So, let's try that again. Let's try the water punch. So a water punch, right? So the back hand should be facing down, Lawrence. Unless you want to show off that ring. Just like that, yeah. So water punch is the two back. So this is the back of the fist. This is the back of the fist. So water punch is always twisted like that, yeah. And then you go to the corner with the same step that you do in all the forms like Lo Ga Kun. You're stepping to the corner. So when we're here, we step to center, open the stance, high block, right? And then palm. So the footwork you should be familiar with, right? That's why when you advance, you're really not learning a whole lot. You're learning new sequence, but not really a whole lot of transition. So you step again, one, set up your stance, and then turn. Yeah, that sets up your high. So that creates a lot better image. Then you do the sliding step in palm. Boom, and that's it, right? And then if you were to step up, you could press, right? So when you press, there's your cutting hand, and this is a press down. So this press down should actually be fairly close, but how do you get strength into that position without rounding the back, right? So this hand actually should be even closer than that, because you're gonna come on top and come forward into your stance. Because what you're doing is when you capture the arm and you go like this, you're doing an arm break in the elbow or arm lock in the elbow. So unless you have a person with a 96-inch arm, it shouldn't be out there. No matter how tall the person is, the variation between the arm is not going to be that big. So if you capture here, when you turn, you have to have the wrist hand and you're on top of it like this. So that's what you're pressing. See? So just to give you a sample of a press, I'll use Eric's hand. If you grab my hand and I turn like this, and I have my hand here, when I turn, the fact that I twist it over like this creates a totally different position, because this is what's happening. So this is coming from here to here, and then when my shoulder rounds, my whole body becomes part of that force. You can never do it like this. How can you? It's not till you do this. And then if I have that, that's something else. So that's what happens when you move from here to here to here to here. Your body has to go through this whole phasing to get on top of the movement, because you want to maximize the potential of that position as a strength. That's the kind of thing that we learn in forms. It's interesting, but then you have to kind of but so it's really the hard controlling, the soft controlling the hard. So you're like this. If you were to turn back the trapping hand and then sink down to here and then take a step and lift up like that, then you see the whole body is involved with the movement. So that's the kind of concept that we try to build into the transition. So a lot of times people say, so what else is there to learn? This is the kind of things that's learned. That's, in Kung Fu, it's not the form, it's the skill. So skill is Kung Fu. You have to learn the skill in order to be a good practitioner. The people that watch and follow Kung Fu, they see skill, they say, oh, he has Kung Fu. They don't look and say, he knows 3 forms. He's just throwing a punch, they could tell if you have good Kung Fu. That's how the old teachers would view it. But generally, most people don't know anyways. But as martial artists, that's what we strive for. So that's really self-cultivation and, you develop through that. And so, it's very minute body control and adjustments that happen over time. So let's go from the beginning, running through from the very beginning. See if you can, it doesn't happen, the things that we just talked about doesn't happen like that. But if you've been doing it a certain way, you can adapt it. All right, ready, go. Hup. Elbow, strike down, back fist. Side kick, turn, cover, poke, fingertips to that. Yeah, go. Cross step, yep. Turn, spin, jump, water punch, high block, step, palm. Both sides, remember you've got the side, okay. Remember, boom, then you high block, boom. So you got, get both hands working together like it. Okay. So that really brings in the idea of yin and yang and concepts of passive active. Something has to drive the movement. So if you have both sides working together, it has to tie through your spine. So you have to turn. So siu ngan sin yeo. Yeo is the waist. If you don't have your waist in the movement, then it's impossible to tie in the upper lower, because it requires waist movement, because that's the torso method. So while we're talking about all these different, 5 coordination, they are essentially methods. You have to understand the method behind what it is. So that's using your waist, and then eventually, if you work through it, you to make that discovery. You have a light bulb going up, and it comes in as, oh, that's what he meant. Okay, we're going to bow out. Ready? Hup. Salute. Yeah, you can do it.